I paid you all to make this trip peaceful, so why's my baby still crying? The woman's voice sliced through the ocean air like a whip, sharp and trembling with exhaustion. Her diamond bracelet caught the sunlight as she pressed her hand against her temple, trying to hold back tears of her own. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories like this one. The luxury yacht. Silver Star glided through the turquoise waters off the coast of Florida, its white hull gleaming like a floating palace. But inside, chaos reigned. Baby Ethan, barely 6 months old, had been crying for almost an hour without pause. No amount of rocking, singing, or gentle whispers seemed to soothe him. Sophia Langford, the millionaire heiress of the Langford Hotel empire, stood helpless, her immaculate white dress wrinkled and her eyes red from lack of sleep. This was supposed to be her escape, her first moment of peace after the storm of her husband's death. Instead, it felt like punishment. Around her, the crew kept their distance, pretending to polish rails or check navigation panels. They were terrified of Sophia's temper, except for one girl. Her name was Emily Reyes, a 23-year-old deckhand from Key West. She had only been on board for 2 weeks, a last-minute hire to replace someone who'd quit. Her hands were calloused from work, her ponytail wind-tossed, and her uniform slightly too big. When Sophia's voice broke again, "Someone do something, he won't stop," Emily froze. She didn't know what made her step forward. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the memory of her little sister crying like that years ago, when their mother had been too sick to hold her. "Mom," Emily said softly, "may I try?" Sophia turned, stunned. The other crew members looked at her as if Emily had just stepped into fire. No one dared touch the baby without permission. Sophia's lips parted. She was about to refuse, but the desperation in her own chest made her nod. "Fine. Just do something." Emily hesitated only a second before she gently took Ethan into her arms. The baby's cries filled the sky, shrill and raw. Everyone on deck stopped moving. Then something unexpected happened. Emily didn't rock him, or sing, or pat his back. Instead, she held him close, so close that her tears fell onto his tiny forehead. "It's okay, little one," she whispered. "You don't have to be scared." And just like that, the crying stopped. The sea seemed to hush with it. The only sound was the soft lap of water against the boat. Sophia's mouth fell open as she stared at her son, calm, peaceful, asleep in the arms of a stranger. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Sophia whispered, How did you do that?" Emily looked down at the baby, her voice trembling. Sometimes they just need to feel someone's heart beating next to theirs. Sophia didn't know it yet, but that moment, that single act of kindness, would uncover secrets she'd buried deep beneath her fortune, and it would change both their lives forever. For the next few minutes, no one dared to move. The ocean breeze brushed softly across the deck, carrying with it a strange stillness, as if the waves themselves were listening. Sophia stood frozen, unable to look away from her son. Ethan's tiny hand clutched Emily's uniform collar, his breathing slow and even, his eyelashes still wet with tears. Sophia's voice came out quieter than before. You've done something none of us could." Emily shook her head, embarrassed. "It wasn't me, ma'am. He just needed comfort." "Comfort," Sophia repeated, almost incredulous. "He has everything. Warmth, food, care, medicine." Emily hesitated, then said softly, "Sometimes what they need isn't what money can buy." That sentence lingered in the air like perfume, gentle but impossible to ignore. For the first time in months, Sophia felt something inside her stir, something she hadn't felt since before her husband's death: humility. Later that afternoon, the yacht drifted toward calmer waters. The crew resumed their duties, whispering about what had happened. Some called Emily lucky, others called it strange. But when Sophia passed by, her gaze stayed fixed on the young woman, curious, even cautious. "Emily," she called, standing at the top of the stairs, "come to the main deck at sunset. I want to speak with you." Emily's stomach tightened. Had she crossed a line? Had holding the baby been a mistake? At sunset, the sky blazed gold and rose. Sophia stood near the rail, her silhouette softened by light. The ocean stretched endless and calm, but her heart was anything but. "You said something earlier," Sophia began, "that sometimes money can't buy what people need." She paused, looking toward the horizon. "You sounded like someone who's lost something too." Emily's lips parted, but she didn't answer right away. "I lost my mother when I was 16, she said finally. "And my sister, she hasn't spoken a word since." Sophia turned sharply. "She doesn't speak." "No," Emily said, "not since the night we were taken to foster care." Sophia looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time noticed how Emily's eyes carried both strength and sorrow. "You've been through more than I imagined," Sophia murmured. Emily smiled faintly. "We all have stories, ma'am. Some just don't get told." A silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, but deep. Then, from below deck, Ethan's cry broke through again, softer this time. Sophia instinctively moved to go, but Emily stopped her gently. "May I?" Sophia hesitated, then nodded. Watching Emily cradle her son once more felt like watching magic that couldn't be explained. But this time, as Ethan's tiny fingers brushed against Emily's necklace, a small silver locket shaped like a teardrop, Sophia noticed something she hadn't before. Her breath caught. "Where did you get that necklace?" Emily blinked. It was my mother's." "Why?" Sophia's eyes widened, her pulse quickened, and she turned away as if the world had just tilted beneath her feet. "Because that same locket existed once in a photograph she'd hidden for years, a photograph of her late husband and a woman she never knew, and the woman had been wearing that exact necklace. But that moment changed everything." Sophia couldn't sleep that night. The rhythmic hum of the yacht's engines did little to quiet her thoughts. She lay awake in her suite, staring at the ceiling as moonlight flickered through the window blinds. In her mind, she could see it clearly. The photograph she'd hidden in the bottom drawer of her dresser. Her husband, Charles Langford, smiling with that same easy charm that had once won her heart. His arm around a woman she never met. A woman with kind eyes, dark hair, and a silver teardrop locket resting against her collarbone. The same locket Emily wore. It couldn't be a coincidence. Could it? By dawn, Sophia had made a decision. She needed to know more about that girl, who she was, where she came from, and why that necklace felt like a ghost from the past. At breakfast, she found Emily quietly setting the table on the upper deck. The morning sun touched her face with a golden hue, and for a moment, Sophia almost forgot why she was watching her. "Emily," she said, forcing a polite smile, "join me for a moment." Emily froze, unsure if it was an order or an invitation. "Of course, ma'am." They sat opposite each other, the ocean stretching endlessly around them. Sophia poured coffee into 2 porcelain cups, one of them trembling slightly in her hand. "That locket you wear," Sophia began softly. "It's very distinctive. You said it belonged to your mother." Emily nodded. "Yes, it's the only thing I have left from her. My mom always told me it was a gift from someone she loved deeply. She never said who." Sophia's breath caught. "Did she ever mention a man named Charles?" Emily frowned, thinking, "Charles?" She shook her head slowly. "No. Why?" Sophia forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just curious. It's a lovely name, isn't it?" Emily smiled politely, unaware of the storm brewing inside the woman across from her. As the day went on, Sophia found herself watching Emily more closely. The way she moved, the gentle way she spoke to her son, the warmth that seemed to radiate from her without effort. Every gesture reminded Sophia of the woman from the photo. That afternoon, when the yacht stopped near a small island to restock supplies, Sophia retreated to her cabin and unlocked her private drawer. There it was, the photo, slightly faded at the edges. She traced her husband's face with a trembling finger, then the woman's. The resemblance was undeniable. Emily could be her daughter's age. Her heart pounded. What if Charles had lied to her? What if Emily's mother was the woman in the photograph? Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes, a mixture of anger and heartbreak. She had thought she'd buried her grief when Charles died, but now it felt alive again, raw and merciless. And yet, when she looked out the window and saw Emily cradling her baby, smiling softly under the sunlight, Sophia didn't see betrayal. She saw love. Pure, unfiltered love, something she hadn't felt in years. That night, she stood outside Emily's cabin door for several minutes, listening to the sound of the baby breathing softly inside. She wanted to ask, to confront, to demand the truth. But instead, she whispered, almost to herself, "If she really is part of him, what do I do?" Inside the cabin, Emily stirred awake, sensing someone outside, but when she opened the door, the hallway was empty, filled only with the quiet hum of the sea, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the tides were about to change forever. The following morning, the air felt heavy, too still, too quiet, as if the ocean itself was holding its breath. The captain warned of a storm approaching from the south, but Sophia barely listened. Her thoughts were elsewhere, tangled in questions she couldn't silence. All day, she watched Emily. The girl worked tirelessly, moving between tasks with quiet grace, unaware of the invisible gaze that followed her every step. Sophia couldn't decide if she wanted to embrace her or send her away. By afternoon, grey clouds gathered on the horizon. The waves began to swell, rocking the yacht gently at first, then with increasing force. Crew members rushed to secure equipment, shouting over the rising wind. Sophia stood on deck, clutching the railing as thunder rolled in the distance. Then she heard it. Ethan's cry from below deck, sharp and frightened. "Emily!" she called out, her voice nearly lost in the wind. Emily appeared seconds later, soaked from the rain. "I've got him, Mom." "He's scared, but he's fine." Sophia's heart raced. "Get inside, both of you." The yacht lurched suddenly, tossing them sideways. Sophia stumbled, her heel catching on the deck, and she fell hard against the railing. Pain shot through her arm. Before she could react, Emily dropped the baby's blanket and ran to her. "Ma'am, hold on!" Emily shouted, grabbing her just before another wave crashed over the bow. The sea roared as lightning split the sky. In that moment, Sophia clung to Emily's arm, eyes wide with terror. But what she saw there wasn't just strength, it was familiarity. Emily's eyes, wet and bright, looked exactly like the ones from that photograph. When the storm finally passed, the yacht anchored in a small cove for safety. The crew worked through the night, exhausted but alive. Sophia sat inside her cabin, wrapped in a blanket, Ethan asleep beside her. The locket still shimmered faintly around Emily's neck as she brought her a cup of tea. "Thank you," Sophia whispered. Her voice trembled not from fear, but from something deeper, a strange, growing tenderness. Emily smiled softly. "It's nothing, ma'am. I'm just glad you're safe." Sophia stared at her for a long time before asking, "Emily, your mother, what was her name?" Emily looked surprised by the question. Clara Reyes." Sophia's breath caught again. Clara. The name struck her like a memory she'd tried to erase. Her husband had mentioned a Clara once, years ago, before they were married. "Just a friend from before," he'd said, but now the truth felt dangerously close. Sophia's hand trembled as she reached out, her voice breaking. "Emily, did your mother ever live in New York?" Emily frowned. "Yes, before I was born." "Why?" Sophia closed her eyes. Her worst fear was taking shape, a connection she could no longer deny. That night, Sophia couldn't sleep again. Every creak of the ship echoed in her mind. She rose from bed, walked quietly to the baby's crib, and looked at Ethan's peaceful face. Then, almost without thinking, she whispered, "Your father wasn't the only one keeping secrets, was he?" From the hallway, Emily paused. She hadn't meant to overhear, but the words froze her where she stood. Her heart pounded. What did she mean by that? The next morning, neither woman spoke of what had happened, but something unspoken hung between them, heavier than the storm that had passed. And as the yacht sailed toward Miami, the truth neither of them wanted to face was about to rise with the sun. The morning sun painted the ocean in soft gold, but neither Sophia nor Emily noticed the beauty around them. The atmosphere on the Silver Star had changed, no longer filled with luxury and calm, but with a quiet tension that made every moment feel fragile. Sophia sat in the dining lounge, untouched breakfast before her. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the glass window, elegant, composed but hollow-eyed. She had spent the night replaying every memory of her husband, searching for signs, words, anything she'd missed. Emily entered quietly, holding Ethan in her arms. "Good morning, ma'am," she said, her voice hesitant. Sophia looked up, her expression unreadable. "Sit with me, Emily." The young woman hesitated. Crew members didn't sit with the yacht's owner, not unless ordered. But something in Sophia's tone felt different, so Emily obeyed, lowering herself gently into the seat across from her. Sophia's gaze dropped to the locket again. "You said your mother's name was Clara Reyes. You're certain?" Emily nodded. "Yes. She passed away when I was 17. "Why?" Sophia's throat tightened. "Because I think I knew her. Or rather, I think my husband did." Emily blinked, confused. "Your husband?" Sophia's hands trembled slightly as she pulled a small photo from her pocket. Worn, faded, edges curled with time. She laid it on the table. "This was taken 24 years ago." Emily leaned in. Her breath caught. There he was, the man from the stories her mother used to tell, the one she'd never named. He's the man in my mom's old pictures," she whispered. Sophia nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. "Charles Langford, my husband." The words fell between them like thunder, silent but devastating. Emily's pulse raced. "You're saying my mother knew him?" Sophia's voice broke. "I'm saying she might have loved him." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The only sound was Ethan's soft cooing, as if even he could sense the weight of what was unfolding. Emily swallowed hard. "So what does that make me?" Sophia met her eyes, and the truth neither wanted to speak trembled on her lips. "I don't know yet, but I intend to find out." Later that day, Sophia went through her late husband's old journals in her private cabin, pages yellowed with time, ink slightly smudged. Most of it was business, travel notes, meetings. But then she found it, a folded letter tucked between 2 pages. "My dearest Clara," it began. "If things were different, I'd tell the world about you. But I can't. You deserve more than a secret." Sophia's breath hitched as she read on. The letter ended with a date, the same year Emily was born. Her knees weakened. She gripped the edge of the desk, whispering, "Oh, God, he was her father." That evening, Sophia stood on deck, watching the sunset blur into the horizon. Emily approached quietly, carrying Ethan. She looked pale, as if the wind itself had stolen her strength. "I don't want this to change how you see me," Emily said softly. "I didn't know anything about him. My mother never told me." Sophia turned, eyes glistening. "I believe you, but it changes everything about how I see myself." A tear slipped down Sophia's cheek as she reached out and gently brushed a strand of hair from Emily's face. "You look like her, and maybe like him too." For the first time, Emily didn't feel like just a crew member. She felt like someone whose existence had just rewritten another woman's life. And yet, neither of them noticed the crew member watching from the shadows, the one who had overheard everything, because soon this secret wouldn't belong to just the 2 of them, and you won't believe what happened next. By morning, the Silver Star no longer felt like a sanctuary of wealth. It felt like a cage filled with whispers. Sophia could sense it in the air, the way the crew stopped talking when she entered, the sideways glances, the murmurs that died too quickly. Something had spread. The secret had escaped. When she saw Emily carrying breakfast trays to the upper deck, Sophia motioned her over. "They know," she said quietly. Emily's hands froze around the silver tray. "Know what?" Sophia's voice dropped to a whisper. "About the letter. About Charles. About us." Emily's face paled. "But how? I didn't tell anyone." Sophia shook her head. "Someone must have heard. Someone was listening." At that moment, Captain Harris approached, a sturdy man in his 50s with a weathered face and wary eyes. "Mrs. Langford," he said carefully, "there's been talk among the crew. Some say the new girl might be related to your late husband." Sophia's jaw tightened. "Rumors," she said sharply, "and if I hear one more word of it, there will be consequences." But when Harris left, Emily turned to her, eyes wide and trembling. "He's right, isn't he? They're talking because it might be true." Sophia didn't answer. She looked away, her face drawn and tired. "Truth doesn't always protect us, Emily. Sometimes it destroys what little peace we have left." The day dragged on, heavy with unspoken words. By sunset, Emily could no longer stand it. She found Sophia on the stern, staring out at the endless horizon, the wind tugging gently at her hair. "Mrs. Langford," Emily began, her voice shaking, "if this is true, If your husband was my father, then that means—" Sophia turned. Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "It means I spent years loving a man who belonged to two worlds. And you are the part of him I never knew I needed." Emily's breath caught. "Why would he keep it a secret?" Sophia's gaze softened. "Because he was weak, and maybe because he thought protecting us meant hiding us from each other." Silence. Only the ocean spoke, its steady rhythm a cruel reminder of time passing. Then, a sudden noise. Footsteps. The crew member who'd been eavesdropping earlier appeared, holding a phone. "Mrs. Langford, I thought you should know. Someone's already posted about this. There's a photo of you and Emily." Sophia's blood ran cold. "What?" He handed her the phone. On the screen, a gossip page headline flashed. "Langford heiress caught with mystery crew girl, secret daughter of her late husband." Her world collapsed in a single heartbeat. The image was blurry but clear enough. Sophia on deck, hand on Emily's shoulder, both faces lit by sunset. A mother's tenderness captured and twisted into scandal. Emily's lips parted in horror. "Oh my God, I didn't want this." Sophia pressed her fingers to her forehead, her voice trembling. "Neither did I. But it's too late now." That night, as the waves crashed softly against the hull, Sophia sat alone in her cabin. The phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages. Reporters, investors, old friends she hadn't heard from in years. The Langford name was already burning through the media. Emily stood at her door, holding Ethan close. "Mom," she whispered, "should I go? Maybe it's better if I leave before this gets worse." Sophia looked up slowly. "Leave? After everything?" She rose to her feet, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "Emily, I lost my husband to lies. I won't lose the truth that came after him." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "But they'll hate you for it." Sophia shook her head. "They can hate me all they want. You're family, and I'm not hiding that anymore." For the first time, Emily saw not the stern, untouchable millionaire, but a woman stripped of pretense, fragile, real, and brave. She stepped forward, trembling, and whispered, "Then maybe it's time the world knows who I really am, and you won't believe what happened next." By sunrise, the story had exploded. Every gossip site, every morning show, every digital headline carried the same scandalous words. "Langford scandal at sea, hidden daughter revealed." Sophia's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters wanted statements. Shareholders wanted explanations. Her lawyer wanted silence. But what Sophia wanted, what she needed, was truth. She stood on the deck in a cream-colored robe, hair unpinned and eyes swollen from tears. The crew avoided her gaze. Only Emily, standing at the far end of the deck with baby Ethan, dared to look her way. "Mrs. Langford," Emily said softly, approaching, "we can deny it. We can say it's fake. You don't owe anyone an explanation." Sophia turned slowly, her expression calm but heavy. "But I do owe it to you, and to him." Her voice trembled on the last word. Him. Later that morning, she called for Captain Harris and gathered the crew. The yacht's engines were off. The sea around them shimmered with quiet expectancy. "I know what's being said," Sophia began, her tone clear and measured. "And I know most of you have already read the headlines. I'm not going to hide behind my name or my money." She turned toward Emily, whose eyes glistened with fear and pride. "This young woman, Emily Reyes, is more than part of my crew. She's part of my story. She's part of my family." A murmur spread through the deck. Emily gasped, covering her mouth with one trembling hand. Sophia continued, voice breaking but strong. My late husband, Charles Langford, made mistakes, ones I didn't know about until recently, but the consequence of those mistakes is standing before us, and she deserves dignity, not shame. The crew fell silent. The wind tugged gently at Sophia's robe, as if even the air held its breath. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this for me? Sophia stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. Because for the first time in years, I feel like I'm doing the right thing. That afternoon, Sophia called a press conference via satellite, a move her advisors begged her not to make. Cameras blinked, microphones buzzed, and faces she didn't recognize waited for a quote that could destroy her empire. Sophia stood tall beside Emily, who held Ethan close. Her voice was steady, her gaze unflinching. My name is Sophia Langford, she said, and I have something to say, not as an heiress, but as a mother, as a woman, and as someone who's made peace with the past. The reporters leaned forward, hungry. She took a deep breath. The rumors are true. Emily Reyes is connected to my late husband, but she's not a scandal. She's a human being, and she's my responsibility, my family, and my redemption. Gasps rippled through the crowd of journalists. Some cameras zoomed in on Emily's tear-streaked face as she held the baby tighter. Sophia continued, her tone firm but gentle. The Langford name will not be built on secrets anymore. I will face whatever comes, but I will not let the truth drown beneath shame. When it was over, the silence on the yacht was almost holy. Emily turned to Sophia, speechless, before finally whispering, "You just risked everything." Sophia smiled softly, tears glimmering in her eyes. No, dear. I finally stopped risking everything. I just chose what matters most. That evening, as the sun dipped into the ocean, Emily sat beside her, baby Ethan sleeping in her arms. The air was warm and still, the chaos of the day fading into the gentle rhythm of the waves. I used to think I was alone in this world, Emily said quietly. Now I know I'm not. Sophia looked at her and smiled, a real, unguarded smile. You never were. But even as peace settled between them, a small envelope lay unopened in Sophia's cabin. One last letter from Charles Dershon found among his papers, marked with a single line in his handwriting, "For the day you learn the truth." And that letter would change everything once more. That night, the yacht drifted quietly under a velvet sky, the moon casting silver light across the endless water. Most of the crew had gone to sleep, and the world outside seemed still, except for Sophia, who sat at her desk with trembling hands. The envelope lay before her, its edges yellowed, sealed with the faint imprint of her husband's initials, C.L. Her heart pounded as she traced the familiar handwriting, "For the day you learn the truth." She hesitated only a moment before breaking the seal. Inside was a single letter, written in Charles's elegant, deliberate hand. "My dearest Sophia, if you are reading this, it means the past has finally found its way to you. As I always feared it would. I won't defend what I did. I loved two women in two different ways. And for that, I've carried guilt heavier than any fortune could balance. Clara was part of my life before I ever knew you. When I met you, I thought I could start over, be a better man. But when I learned that Clara was with child, I couldn't face the truth. I was a coward. You gave me everything, Sophia, grace, loyalty, and love I never deserved. I betrayed that love not by choice, but by fear. I wanted to protect you both, but I ended up wounding everyone I cared about. If Emily ever finds her way to you, please don't turn her away. She carries nothing of my mistakes, only the goodness of her mother and the heart of someone I wish I had been brave enough to know. Forgive me, not for what I did, but for the pain I caused by hiding it. Yours always, Charles. By the time Sophia finished reading, her tears had soaked through the paper. The anger she'd carried on for years of lies, of betrayal, melted into something softer. Not acceptance, not yet, but understanding. Emily stood quietly in the doorway, clutching the baby. "Is that from him?" she asked gently. Sophia nodded, wiping her eyes. "Yes, it's from him. And it's the truth I didn't know I needed." Emily stepped closer, hesitant. "Do you hate him?" Sophia smiled faintly through her tears. "No, I think, for the first time, I don't hate anyone. I just wish he'd had the courage to love us both honestly." They stood together in silence, the letter between them like a bridge, fragile but real. Outside, the sea was calm again, the waves soft against the hull as if the ocean itself had exhaled. Sophia took Emily's hand and placed the letter in it. "Keep this. It belongs to you more than it ever did to me." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, and for not sending me away, for letting me stay." Sophia's voice softened. "You didn't come to destroy my life, Emily. You came to give it meaning again." The next morning, as the Silver Star approached the Miami harbor, photographers still waited on the docks. But Sophia no longer feared the flash of their cameras. She walked down the ramp beside Emily, her head held high, one arm gently around her, and the world for the first time saw not a scandal, but a family. Later that week, Sophia quietly announced the opening of a foundation in Clara's name, dedicated to helping young single mothers rebuild their lives. Emily would run it. When the reporters asked why, Sophia simply said, "Because forgiveness is the only legacy worth leaving behind." As the camera shutters clicked, Emily looked at her with tears of gratitude, whispering, "You saved me." Sophia smiled. "No, dear, you saved me." The yacht, the scandal, the secrets. They were all part of a journey neither woman had expected. But as the waves sparkled under the Florida sun, both knew one truth that no rumor could erase. Sometimes the family you never knew you had is the one that was meant to find you all along. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and tell me if you liked this story.